Hi friends! I'm glad you're back because we are going to talk about how to write your Amazon book description. I'm so excited for this because if you've done some of the foundational work in this group, you have a really great start. I don't want you to feel boxed in like you have to use what you already wrote, but we're going to talk about how to optimize it for Amazon specifically. However, you can take what you wrote for some of the foundational lessons and start with that. What is your big promise to the readers? What is your little elevator speech or pitch, whatever you want to call it? The short, we actually wrote book cover copy. That, what you have on the back of your book cover, can be a great starting point. You might even be able to copy and paste most or all of it into the description of your Amazon book description field, into the field, I should say. But you do want to ensure that you're doing some very specific things. So let's talk about the 3 or 4 smart things you want to do, and I'm going to give you a couple tips on how to optimize your book description. And let's just real quick be clear why this is important. If you pull up a book that someone said, oh, hey, you should read this. You pull up Untamed and you're reading the book description and it sounds kind of horrible, you're not going to buy it. Even if your friend said, like, you're going to love this. If the book description's sort of like, oh gosh, I don't want to read about that, or it's just boring, or there's a bunch of typos, or, it's just not hooking you in, it's not giving you something to be excited about. Because let's face it, getting a book in the mail or getting a new book, period, is exciting, right? You're looking forward to something. You're looking forward to reading about something that you are interested in. That's the same for your readers. So give them something to be excited about. That is the point about this. Yes, your title's important. Yes, your book cover is important. But this book description is really one of the biggest, strongest selling tools you have when we are talking about your Amazon profile or your Amazon selling, I guess we'll call it. So let's move on here. There is one thing that you want to do right away to make sure that your readers jump into that book description and keep reading, and that's hook them, okay? You want to hook them with some type of dramatic statement, some type of quote from the book. Sometimes it's just a different type of attention getter that's very intriguing, and they're like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that. You're going to want to get them invested right away. Sometimes it can be very similar to the first line of your book. We talked about how to write a really catchy, hooky first line. How do you get people invested and engaged and going like, whoa, I'm going to keep reading. You want to give them something that intrigues them, that piques their interest, but you don't solve it right away. You're not solving it right afterwards. You're not going like, oh my gosh, you'll never guess what I just saw. You're not going to tell them right away. You're going to wait like a paragraph, or maybe you don't even, you say how you have to buy the book to know what I just saw. That's a bad example, but you know what I mean. You're going to leave them kind of in a cliffhanger situation. Sometimes that's done with that first sentence. So that really is one of the biggest pieces of your description, that first sentence. You have to hook them in early. If you want more specific tips on writing a killer first line, I believe that is the title of my video in the group. How to write a killer first line. Post a comment and I will tag you in that video if you can't find it. But that video will go over some really good tips on how to write a first line for your book, but it's really the same thing, okay? Once you have your first line and you've hooked them. You got them on the hook. You got to reel them in now, right? I'm not a fisherwoman, but we're going to go with the fishing analogy here. You hook them, you reel them in, right? Next, you have to really jump into what your book's about. You have to basically tell them what it's about. Of course, you're not going to summarize the whole thing from top to bottom, and you really have to be careful about how much detail you go into, but what do you not leave out? For example, if your book is about some very triggering type of topics, you're going to want to drop words in there that give your readers the heads up, like, by the way, this involves some child abuse or whatever it is. Whatever the trigger may be, think about, you're going to want to maybe add something in there. And it doesn't have to be obvious, like trigger warning, or, you can say that maybe at the bottom, but you're going to want to give the readers an idea of what the book is about. And that's what it's about. Those triggering type of events, that stuff that is traumatic for you that you've healed from. Some books, of course, don't involve any of that, but if it's relevant for yours, think about those terms. And you want to kind of give them the main theme, right? We've talked about theme. I feel like I talk about theme until you guys are sick of hearing about it from me, but it's important. What is the theme? The central kind of universal theme. What's the conflict your character, you in your book? What are you struggling with? What's that big thing you're dealing with, you're grappling with? And really you want to kind of answer, include a couple of these things. Number one, we got to know who you are, right? You're the lead, I guess, character, the protagonist in your book, right? We want to know who you are. This book is about you. So give us some information about you a little bit. You want to give us that conflict, that struggle, that, what is driving you forward? What's the problem you're trying to solve, or the thing you're trying to heal from, or whatever it is? There has to be some forward movement in your book in order for it to work. So tell us about that. And then tell us about the stakes. Are you running for your life? Are you looking at financial ruin? Are you trying to escape an abusive marriage? Like, what are the stakes here? How much of a dire situation is this? And then you want to kind of, again, I hinted at this in the first line discussion, but after you've given us a description of what the book is about, you don't want to tell us, oh, hey, I totally got out of that relationship. It's no bigs. Like, I'm super great now. You want to leave us wanting more, right? We want to know, what happened. Oh my gosh, I have to buy this book to see if she makes it out of the woods or whatever it is, right? You want us to feel like there's something unresolved, and we have to click purchase in order to get our appetites fulfilled, in order for us to feel like we're clued in now. You had me going in the book description, but now I feel better because I read all the way till the end and I paid you my money. So you're going to end maybe with a question like, does she get out of the woods? Or hint at a twist, something really big is going to happen in this book. Hint at it. Maybe don't give us all the deets. Think of a good cliffhanger. Will this work out for her? Will she succeed? Most likely you will, and we kind of all know that. But typically, we understand that you're writing a book because it's an engaging, valuable read, a good story. We're hearing a good story here. And we all know that things in life never go as planned. So you may succeed, but it's going to look totally different than what you planned on, right? So even if it's obvious what the ending is probably going to be, we know that it's not going to necessarily take an obvious path. So we want to see where this might go and understand that this is going to go a little bit through the woods, over the river and through the woods here, okay? And then you want to let them know, specifically for memoir, who your readers are, or what benefit, right? We talked about what value does your book give to them? What is the benefit they're going to gain by reading this? And this doesn't need to be done in a very obvious way, but if you have any blurbs or positive reviews, maybe your beta readers gave you some reviews, or you asked some group members, or you have some writing friends or something that have read your book, you can ask them for a blurb or a review, and you can actually include that right in your description. So even though they haven't left it on your Amazon account yet, they can always do that later, but you can actually put whatever you want in your description. So if you've been given permission to use their review of your book, their language with their name, put that in your description. That's going to be super powerful. It's going to say, hi, I'm a real reader, and this is what I gained from this book, and you guys are going to love it. You can give them an idea. This is for women who are struggling with fill in the blank or whatever it is. But in a way that, isn't necessarily obvious, try thinking of whether your book is comparable to any well-known books that are similar, and say something to the effect of, hey, if you really like this, you're totally going to love this, Give them that comparison to say, Of course, I'm not, Glennon Doyle here, but my book is super similar to Untamed in a lot of ways. Whatever. A reader compared it to this. Maybe that's in one of your reviews or a blurb. Cool, great, wonderful. Put that in your description. You can absolutely do this. 3 tips I want you to think about. Number 1, well, 4, I guess I should say, because number 1, if you're stumped on how to do this, look up other memoirs that have done well, maybe in your similar genre or similar topic, but look up other memoirs and see what they've done for their book descriptions that are working. Of course, if they're very well known, they're Michelle Obama, like they could just say, hey, I'm Michelle Obama and I wrote a book. Like, you guys are going to love it. Maybe they don't have to go to great pains to sell their books, but go do some research. What are other authors who have written similar books saying in their book description, and try to do a little copying, right? Maybe not word for word, of course, but how are they presenting the information? What information are they providing? What aren't they providing? See if you can glean any patterns and pick up what they're giving and not giving, and emulate that. And number 2, please go ahead and utilize some formatting. It's not as easy to do like bold or italics or like a headline type of font. It's not simple like Microsoft Word. I don't think. You might have to use some code, if you will, but don't be scared. Code is very easy to use. And if you just Google, formatting code for Amazon, you're going to come up with like a bajillion little blurbs about that. I promise you, it's super easy. I'm building my website as we speak, and I have used CSS code all over the place to bold things and italicize things when they don't give me the option to. It's super easy. Don't be scared. All right. So anyway, go ahead and use formatting. Amazon will let you use that code, and it makes your book description stick out a little bit. Maybe you want to italicize some things. You want to bold some words. You want to bold the first headline, line. Do it. That'd be awesome, right? The more attention your description is going to garner, the better for you. You also want to remember, we talked about in the last video, we talked about setting up your book profile, and we talked about keywords and categories and all of that. I'm going to dive into that next in another video, but utilize some of those keywords as you can, as they feel natural in your book description. You don't want to like just dump a bunch of words in there. They call that keyword stuffing, and that's something Amazon does not allow, and your readers will be able to understand like that's what you're doing. I don't know if you've ever run across a product description on Amazon where it's like there's like 15 words in the title to describe something like a bath bomb or whatever. It's like 100 different words. They're just stuffing them in there. So do it in the smart way, where you're utilizing the keywords in the context of your book description the way they are meant to be used, and not just stringing along a bunch of terms. But keep that in mind. What keywords can you use so that readers in doing their searching will find your book? And then when you are wrapping up your book description, you want to make sure that you kind of give your readers, whether your reviewers have given you some feedback, like that's kind of the bottom section. And then you can kind of throw in a couple keywords there, like a couple. That's kind of the wrap up section. That's underneath everything. But see if some of the books that you pull up on Amazon, other books that have been successful, see where they're kind of placing their keywords and their wrap up and what they're saying at the very end. But the end is way less important than the beginning. You're going to give them your first line, your meat, maybe some reviews or some blurbs or a comparison to some well-known titles, and make it look all pretty, and there you go. Okay? So that is your book description in Amazon. That's something you put in the back end when you're filling out your profile and uploading your files. You can, of course, spend time preparing this in like a Word document, copy and paste it in there. When you copy and paste, if it's formatted in your Word document, you're going to have to reformat it using that code. The little code that I talked about, the formatting CSS code. But that's totally fine. Prepare it separately. Don't stress about doing it while you're on your browser and feeling rushed like it's unsaved. Do it separately and then copy and paste it, and you will be set. In my next video, we're going to dive into those keywords and categories, which will, of course, help you with your book description. So please come back and learn about those, and it's going to be so fun, I promise.